Good morning, dear friends. I hope you all are doing great. Do always stay in a pink of health. So in part 1, we have discussed 10 questions, 10 MCQs we have discussed with complete explanation, So today in part 2, we'll be talking about, few more questions with complete explanation and solutions. Have a look. So question number 11, what we have, which one of the following statements is correct with respect to enzymes? The first thing is apoenzyme gives haloenzyme plus coenzyme. So these are the statements what you have right here. You have to find out that which one is correct. Before looking at these options, let us understand some logic here. Can you focus it here? Remember always, my dear friends, apoenzyme plus cofactor gives us haloenzyme. And remember always one thing, this apoenzyme is basically inactive enzyme. And this haloenzyme is basically the active enzyme. So when your inactive enzyme, apoenzyme, interacts with the cofactor, it becomes haloenzyme. So apoenzyme plus cofactor gives me haloenzyme. So I need to find out an option where I have apoenzyme plus cofactor gives me haloenzyme. That will be our correct answer. Have a look here. Apoenzyme plus coenzyme gives me haloenzyme here. But here we have a cofactor. So let us try to understand the cofactor. Whether this coenzyme is a cofactor or not, let us understand it. If we talk about this cofactor, it can be your mineral ion. What kind of mineral ion it can be? It can be your, magnesium, copper, cobalt. So these kind of ions will be there. Even zinc, iron, ions. So your mineral ions will be magnesium ion, copper ion, cobalt ion, zinc ion, iron ions. These mineral ions are basically your cofactors. And your cofactor can be also organic molecules. In organic molecules, you can have here coenzymes. And you can also have here prosthetic group. Correct? In coenzymes, what are these coenzymes actually? They are derived from, can you zoom here? Derived from vitamins like thiamine and riboflavin. Prosthetic group derived from vitamins like biotin. So my dear friends, if we look at our options here and if we look at this cofactor, your cofactor can be mineral ions, your cofactor can be coenzyme, or your cofactor can be prosthetic group. So it can be a mineral ion, it can be a coenzyme, or it can be a prosthetic group. So what I need apoenzyme plus cofactor gives me haloenzyme. And my dear friends, look here. We have here apoenzyme. It is inactive enzyme plus coenzyme. Look here. This coenzyme is nothing but it's a cofactor. Coenzyme is a cofactor. So this guy is our cofactor. And we know that apoenzyme plus cofactor gives me haloenzyme. Look here. Apoenzyme plus cofactor gives me haloenzyme, which is active. So this option number B, is correct. But if you look here, this is inactive enzyme. Inactive enzyme gives you haloenzyme plus coenzyme. That's incorrect, because apoenzyme plus coenzyme should give you, you know what, haloenzyme. So only the option number second is correct. I hope you have understood. Because coenzyme is nothing but its cofactor. So apoenzyme plus cofactor. What is cofactor? Coenzyme gives me haloenzyme. So apoenzyme plus coenzyme gives me haloenzyme. So this one is correct. Please make note of this particular problem. Dear friends, let's talk about the question number 12. Which one among the following is an enantiomer of D-glucose? We know that D-glucose is dextrorotatory. Correct? Because we have already done it in our theory classes. So have a look. We have to find out that which one among them is an enantiomer of D-glucose. Okay? Let us see what is an enantiomer. Enantiomer, or we can say enantiomers. Organic compounds. First of all, they should have same molecular formula. That everybody knows that the isomers will always have same molecular formula. So I will write down only a crispy definition here, that organic compounds which are non-superimposable, to their mirror image and have opposite optical properties, That means one will rotate the light in clockwise direction and another enantiomer will rotate the light in anti-clockwise direction. So let us see here, organic compounds which are non-superimposable to their mirror image and have opposite optical properties. If one is dextrorotatory, the another one is levorotatory. Correct? Look here. If I am talking about D-glucose, we already know that the glucose is dextrorotatory. So who will be the enantiomer of D-glucose? The D-glucose enantiomer should have optical activity, opposite to glucose, and that should be levorotatory. If this guy is dextrorotatory, its enantiomer will be levorotatory. Correct? So my dear friends, let us understand how. Have a look. We need to take on two organic compounds. They should be non-superimposable to their mirror image. Have a look here. Correct? Have a look. Let's take a D-glucose here. We have here CHO, CHOH, okay, COH at third carbon, H, COH, H, COH, H, then we have CH2OH. So this is our basically D-glucose. Let's call it as D-glucose. Why D-glucose? Because we know that at last chiral carbon, that is fifth carbon, it has OH group on right side, so it is D-glucose. I want to find out the enantiomer of D-glucose, and that enantiomer of D-glucose will be non-superimposable. Okay? Have a look. If I talk about letter A, if I show this letter A to the mirror, so this is how exactly it shows me. I can take this A and put on A. If I put this A over A, they will fit on each other. So A will fit on A. That means they are basically superimposable. They are superimposable. Okay? But if you look at the P and P, so this is the mirror image of P. If I put P over P, it will be like this. So they don't fit onto each other. So they are non-superimposable. If you take this P and put it here on this P, you can have a look that they don't fit on each other. But you can put A exactly over A like this. A is here. Take this A and put it on this. It will be exactly over it like this. So that means these two are basically mirror images, but they are superimposable mirror images. So I can call them as superimposable mirror images. This is the mirror here. So what about these two? These are non-superimposable mirror images. Superimposable mirror images. This A can fit exactly on A, but this P cannot fit on this particular P because it's inverted here. Okay? That means these two are non-superimposable. In the same way, the enantiomer of D-glucose should be non-superimposable. Have a look. It should be non-superimposable. That means it has to follow the second pattern here. Correct? Have a look. Let's take the mirror image of D-glucose. Mirror image CHO OH. So it will come on this side exactly opposite H. Here will be H and here will be OH. Here will be OH and H. Here will be OH and here will be H. And then you have CH2OH. Now if you look at these two structures, they are the non-superimposable mirror images. And you know that fifth carbon is here. This is first, second, third, fourth and fifth carbon. Fifth carbon has OH group on left side. Fifth carbon, the last chiral carbon has OH group on left side. I have already told you. When the last chiral carbon has OH group on left side, it's called as L configuration. So this guy is your L. And obviously it's a glucose only, it's a mirror image of glucose, so it's L-glucose. Correct? Experimentally we have found that this D-glucose can rotate the light in clockwise direction. So this guy is our dextro. And its mirror image will be obviously LEVO. It will rotate the light in anti-clockwise direction. Correct? And these two will follow which pattern? Will they follow AA pattern or they will follow PP pattern? Which pattern they will follow? They will follow the PP pattern because they are non-superimposable. They cannot fit onto each other. Just like this hand, okay, and this, in this way. They can't superimpose on each other. But if I put the hands like this, so it's like AA pattern, they superimpose. But if I show one hand like this and one hand like this, thumbs are at the different places. So they don't exactly fit into each other because thumbs don't, combine here. Okay? There is no, interference between thumb and thumb here. So it is non-superimposable. But in this way, superimposable, superimposable, non-superimposable. Correct? So which pattern we need here for enantiomers? Enantiomers should be non-superimposable. That means the pattern has to be which pattern? The first one or the second one? We need the second pattern here. So I will tell it is the P form and here it is exactly opposite. Okay, so mirror image. This pattern will be followed here. Now you look here, this is our D-glucose. We need the enantiomer of D-glucose. Can you find out that which structure follows this? I need this structure now, L-glucose, enantiomer. Can you see which structure? Is it first one? There is H and OH. Here it's H and OH in this direction, so it cannot be. So here OH and H, but there it is OH and H in this direction. Let's compare here. Here we have HOH, here also HOH. Here we have OH and H, but here we have H and OH. So this is also not the structure. Let's have a look here. OH, OH here, H, H here, OH, 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 OH. Correct? That means this is the answer. The D option is the answer, and this D option is your L-glucose. And remember, this structure is actually for your information. Actually, I can write down this is your mannose structure, D-mannose, and this structure is basically your D-galactose, and this structure is your actually D-glucose. So it's the same structure, this one, D-glucose here. If you look at the D option and you look at here the mirror image, look at the mirror image and look at the D option. So the D-glucose, enantiomer of D-glucose is L-glucose, and this is your L-glucose, you can see here. So our answer is the D option. I hope, my dear friends, you have understood. So what is D-glucose and L-glucose here? If they are non-superimposable mirror images of each other, like PP pattern, then understand their optical activities will be exactly opposite. And we know we call them as, enantiomers. Dear friends, let's talk about the question number 30. Which one among the following will have 16 stereoisomers? So first of all, let us understand what are stereoisomers here. Have a look here. Can you focus it here, sir? Stereoisomers. Obviously, isomers will have same molecular formula. Everybody knows about it. Okay. Organic compounds with same molecular formula or formulae plural, same molecular formula, similar bonding pattern, but differ in arrangement of atoms in three-dimensional space. In three-dimensional space. A very simple thing. If I take any structure, okay, let me take a structure of glucose molecule, correct? And I want to find out that the glucose does have how many different types of stereoisomers. Okay, I will take a glucose molecule and I have to find out that the glucose molecule has how many different types of stereoisomers. Okay, and those stereoisomers and the glucose, they should have the same molecular formula. Second thing, their bonding should be also same, but the arrangement of atoms in these stereoisomers will be different in three-dimensional space. Okay, if you rotate a particular molecule, then the arrangement of its atoms will differ. Due to difference in that particular arrangement, we will get a different isomer, and those are basically the stereoisomers. So they have only the difference in the arrangement of atoms in three-dimensional space. Correct? So let's have a look. First of all, we have a glucose molecule, then fructose, then glyceraldehyde, and then all of these. So which one is the answer? Which one among them, first we will have 16 stereoisomers. What are stereoisomers? Organic compounds with similar molecular formula, same bonding pattern, but the arrangement of atoms for these molecules will be different in three-dimensional space. Have a look. Let's take a glucose molecule. We know already that the glucose molecule is like this. You have here OH, H, third carbon OH, H, OH, OH, H, H. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you remember, my dear friends, I have already told you that the glucose molecule in an open structure, in the open structure of glucose molecule, we have 4 chiral carbons. And who are those chiral carbons? The first one is not a chiral, second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one. Second is chiral, third is chiral, fourth is chiral, and fifth one is chiral. So how many chiral carbons the glucose molecule has? This is our glucose molecule. Okay? Correct? In this glucose molecule, second, third, fourth and fifth are chiral carbons. So N stands for number of chiral carbons. Number of chiral carbons. How many chiral carbons are there? 4. Correct? Then we have a formula. Okay? What is that? I need to find out the number of stereoisomers. So number of stereoisomers in glucose, that's equal to 2 to the power n. N stands for number of chiral carbons. 2 to the power n. Okay? How much is n here? We know that the n value is here 4. This is n here, sorry. N is here, so it's 4. So 2 to the power 4. How much is that? That is 16. So that means our glucose molecule will have 16 stereoisomers. So that is our answer. Glucose is the answer for this question. But let us go for the fructose molecule. I have already told you that the fructose molecule will have 3 chiral carbons only. If you look at fructose molecule is like this: CH2OH, then second carbon is ketonic group here, C double bond O, third, fourth, fifth and sixth, CH2OH, third carbon OH, H, OH, OH, H and H. You need not to draw these structures. Okay? I want to show you that where are the chiral carbons. Okay? And I have already told you in theory classes. It will have how many chiral carbons? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 carbons it has. But chiral carbon is which carbon? Third carbon, fourth carbon and fifth carbon. So third carbon is chiral, fourth is chiral and fifth is chiral. Correct? So we have here 3 chiral carbons. So number of chiral carbons are 3. Okay? And 2 to the power n, that is number of stereoisomers. 2 to the power 3, that is 8. So 8 are basically stereoisomers. So our fructose will have 8 stereoisomers, correct? And n stands for number of chiral carbons. Let's talk about now the third option, that is glycerolaldehyde. The glycerolaldehyde is like this. Can I draw it here? Can you folks it here, sir? Okay. CHO, then COH, H and CH2OH. This is glycerolaldehyde. And 1, 2 and 3. The second carbon is chiral carbon. So number of chiral carbons are only 1. The second carbon is chiral carbon, so 1. 2 to the power n is equal to 2 to the power 1. What is that? 2. So 2 stereoisomers we have. For glycerolaldehyde we have 2 stereoisomers. This is glycerolaldehyde. So 2 stereoisomers. Number of chiral carbons are only 1. That is second one. Stereoisomers are 2. So here we have now 16 stereoisomers. Here we have 8 stereoisomers and here we have 2 stereoisomers. So our answer is glucose. Okay, I have given you the detailed description about this question. Okay, please make note of this. So my dear friends, let us do the question number 14. What is the relationship between glucose and fructose? We have to find it out. The relationship between glucose and fructose. Are they enantiomers? No, they are not enantiomers. Enantiomers are basically non-superimposable mirror images. Okay, with different or opposite optical properties like plus and minus. But if you look at the glucose and fructose, they are not the enantiomers because they are 2 different molecules. Correct? If we talk about enantiomer here, let's suppose D-glucose is an enantiomer of L-glucose. Remember that. In the same way, D-fructose is an enantiomer of L-fructose. So glucose and fructose cannot be the enantiomers of each other because they are two different molecules. Okay, D-glucose will be enantiomer of L-glucose and D-fructose will be enantiomer of L-fructose. So these two are not enantiomers of each other. So they are not enantiomers of each other. Correct? Second thing, are they monosaccharides? Yes, they are monosaccharides. So my dear friends, your glucose and fructose both are monosaccharides. Correct? You know that glucose contains 6 carbon atoms. So it is known as aldohexose. And your fructose contains 6 carbon atoms, but it has a ketonic group in it, functional group. So it's called as ketohexose because it contains ketone and this contains aldehyde. And both glucose and fructose contain 6 carbon atoms each. So they are monosaccharides. So they are monosaccharides. So this is correct. This point is correct. So let us check with the other points as well. Correct? Are they functional isomers? Let us see. If you look at the glucose, okay, what is the molecular formula? Molecular formula. Let's not draw the structures here because it consumes little time. Molecular formula is C6H12O6. For fructose, what is the molecular formula? Molecular formula is C6H12O6. So they have same molecular formula. Okay, molecular formula is same, but they have different functional groups. Different functional groups. So different functional groups. What is the functional group in glucose? Everybody knows. The functional group here is aldehyde. And what is the functional group in fructose? It is ketone. So what are these? Molecular formula is same, but functional groups are different. Correct? So I can call them as, so these two are basically your functional isomers. So my dear friends, what are functional isomers? Having same molecular formula, organic compounds with same molecular formula, but have different functional groups. This guy has aldehyde, this guy has ketone. So this is also correct. So that means our answer will be both B and C. So this is our answer. Correct? I hope you have understood, my dear friends. Please make note of this. Dear friends, let's look at the question number 15. Which of the following pair of compounds are epimers? So you have to find out in this option that which pair is an epimer. Correct? But before knowing that, let's understand what is an epimer. Okay? Have a look here. Can you folks sit here, sir? At this point. So what are epimers? Let's understand. Epimers, first thing, they are the isomers, okay? They should have, same molecular formula. Okay, remember that. They should have same molecular formula. So epimers are the stereoisomers which differ in arrangement of OH group, which differ in arrangement of OH group at any one stereogenic center, or you can say chiral center, at any one stereogenic center, or in place of stereogenic center you can also say chiral center. So what are epimers? Very easy. Epimers are the stereoisomers which differ in arrangement of which group? OH groups, which differ in arrangement of OH group at any one stereogenic center or chiral center. At any one stereogenic center or chiral center. So let's get started. Glucose and mannose, first thing that their molecular formula should be same, then we can compare them. Okay, and their functional group should be also same. If they have different functional group, okay, but molecular formula is same, then they will become functional isomers. We know that this guy has aldehyde, this guy also has aldehyde. Molecular formula is also same. Here the same thing. Aldehyde and aldehyde, molecular formula is also same. Here also aldehyde and aldehyde, molecular formula is also same. So I can compare them. If one buddy has, aldehyde and another buddy has, ketone, then I can tell that, they are functional isomers, but they have similar functional groups. So let me compare them as epimers. Let's take the glucose molecule. And we know that for glucose molecule we need a pyrrone ring. So this is our pyrrone ring. Correct? And we know the structures like this. Let me draw H, OH, H, OH, third carbon, OH, H, fourth carbon, H, OH, H, and here we have CH2OH. This is first carbon, second carbon, third carbon, fourth carbon, fifth carbon, and sixth carbon. Correct? This is our glucose molecule. Correct? Let me compare with this glucose, the mannose. Mannose structure is like this. Same thing, H, OH. Correct? Let us say that this guy is alpha, this is also alpha, okay? So both are alpha. First carbon, second carbon, OH, H. Third carbon, OH, H. Fourth carbon, H, OH, H, CH2, OH. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This is mannose. Correct? We can call it as alpha D mannose, and this guy is your alpha D. So this is alpha D glucose and alpha D mannose. Correct? Have a look. If you look at carbon number first, arrangement is same. Carbon number second, arrangement is basically different. Here the OH group is down on second carbon in glucose, and here the OH group is up. This down basically means here on the right side. Correct? OH group is here on the right side in glucose, and here the OH group on second carbon is up. Up means left side. So my dear friends, this is down here and this guy is up here. So what does it mean? This second carbon is basically a chiral carbon. Remember, in cyclic structure of glucose, we have 5 chiral carbons. If you take open structure of glucose, you will have only 4 chiral carbons, 2, 3, 4, 5. But in cyclic structure of glucose, please remember, in cyclic structure of glucose, you have 5 chiral carbons. Have a look. This is your chiral carbon here. First one is also chiral. Second one is also chiral, third one is also chiral, fourth one is also chiral, and fifth one is also chiral. So in case of open structure of glucose, we have 4 chiral carbons. But in cyclic structure of glucose, we have 5 chiral carbons. Now, this second carbon is your chiral carbon here. So we have a chiral carbon here, second carbon, correct? And this one is also a chiral carbon here. Chiral carbon, chiral, chiral, and chiral. Correct? Look here. There is a difference in arrangement of OH group at second carbon. Okay? So I will tell that the glucose and mannose, what are those? They will be your epimers. What are epimers? These are the stereoisomers which differ in arrangement of OH group at any one stereogenic center or chiral center. Second is chiral center, and there is a difference of OH group at second carbon. Correct? Here it is up and here it is down. That means glucose and mannose are epimers at carbon number second. Glucose and mannose are epimers at carbon number second because they differ in the arrangement of OH group at carbon number second. So I will tell glucose and mannose. So I will write down here glucose and mannose are epimers at C2. C2 means carbon number second. Please make note of this so that I can explain you the other things as well. So this glucose and mannose, what are they? They are epimers at carbon number 2. Correct? So let's take the second example. Glucose and galactose. Let's take that example. Correct? So I would like to erase this. Can you folks it here, sir? Please make note of this. Okay. Let's take now second example. Let's compare now glucose with galactose. Let's compare them. Have a look here. H, OH, H, OH, OH, H, OH, H, H, CH2OH. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. This is your alpha. Look at first term alpha, D galactose. Now if I compare now glucose and galactose, okay, you can take it as alpha D glucose and alpha D galactose, correct? Because nothing is written here. You can also take it as beta D glucose and beta D galactose. But take them, you know what, if this is alpha, this is also alpha. If this is beta, this is also beta. Remember that, okay? When alpha and beta signs are not given in examination, then you should consider both of them either alpha or beta. So I am taking them as alpha and alpha. Now first carbon same arrangement, second carbon also same, third carbon also same arrangement, OHH, fourth carbon, if you look here, fourth carbon, you will see that the fourth carbon has OH group here up, OH group is up, and in this case at fourth carbon OH group is down. And you know that first carbon, second carbon, third carbon, fourth carbon and fifth carbon, what are they? They are basically your chiral carbons. Now this alpha D glucose and alpha D galactose, they are basically the epimers at carbon number 4 because they differ in the arrangement of OH group at carbon number 4. So they are epimers at carbon number 4. So I will write down here glucose and galactose are epimers at carbon number 4. And what is this carbon number 4? Chiral carbon, chiral carbon. That is your chiral carbon. We should see the difference in arrangement at chiral carbons. Okay? Not at achiral. You can't see the difference in arrangement at carbon number 6 and carbon number 6. Why? Because carbon number 6 is not chiral. So the difference between glucose and galactose is that glucose and galactose are epimers at carbon number 4, and that carbon number 4 is which carbon? Chiral carbon. And we know that this guy should be a chiral carbon. So this one is also correct. So I can call them as epimers at C4. C4 is a chiral carbon and here C2 is a chiral carbon. Now we have alpha D glucose and beta D glucose. Let's understand. I will take it down here now. I hope you would have written this thing. Let's compare now glucose with alpha D glucose with beta D glucose. H, OH. Fourth carbon. Okay. Now beta form will be like this. Here is OH group on first carbon down, and beta form, beta D glucose, will have OH group up on first carbon itself. So it's up. And first carbon is also a chiral carbon here. Chiral carbon, chiral carbon. In cyclic structure of glucose, first carbon is also a chiral carbon. Chiral, OH, H, third carbon chiral, HOH, fourth carbon is also chiral, fifth carbon is also chiral, so sorry, CH2OH, that is the sixth carbon here. Now these two will differ in the arrangement of OH group at first carbon. First carbon is also chiral carbon, correct? So I will tell that glucose and alpha D glucose and beta D glucose. Alpha D glucose and beta D glucose are epimers at C1, and that C1 is nothing but it's your chiral carbon. Correct, my dear friends? So your alpha D glucose and beta D glucose are epimers at C1. Dear friends, now you have learned that what are epimers, and you can easily answer this question now. Which of the following pair of compounds are epimers? You can easily answer this. You know that glucose and mannose, they are epimers at carbon number 2. These are epimers at carbon number 4, and these two are epimers at carbon number 1. And now when they are all epimers, so answer is all of these. Dear friends, let's look at the question number 16. How are the two strands of DNA arranged in its structure? So we have to tell that how are the two strands of DNA arranged, with respect to each other in its structure. We know that this is the DNA structure. This is our DNA. In theory classes, I have already told you that the DNA is a double helix structure. This is our DNA. So it's a double helix structure. And I also told you that one strand, this first strand of the DNA, is from 5' to 3'. This is the fifth carbon of a sugar, which is deoxyribose sugar, and this is the third carbon of deoxyribose sugar. In a polynucleotide chain, you are moving from 5' to 3', and in this second chain you move from basically 3' to 5'. What are these 5' and 3'? This is the fifth carbon of deoxyribose sugar, and here it is the third carbon of deoxyribose sugar. So third carbon of deoxyribose sugar, and this is the fifth carbon of deoxyribose sugar. And you know also that the adenine will base pair with thymine, and there are two hydrogen bonds between them. And if you have a cytosine here will be guanine. If it is a guanine here will be cytosine. If it is an adenine here or thymine, here will be adenine. Because you know that adenine will always base pair with thymine, and cytosine will base pair with guanine. 3 hydrogen bonds between cytosine and guanine. So 3 hydrogen bonds, and here we have 2 hydrogen bonds. So my dear friends, if you look at the two strands of the DNA, one is from 5 to 3', and second one is from 3 to 5. 3 to 5. So what are these? They are anti-parallel. So answer is anti-parallel is the answer. So B option is the answer here. Please make note of this. Let's come to the question number 17. Identify X, Y, Z in the given reactions. So these are the given reactions. You have to identify this X, Y, and Z. You know, my dear friends, this is known as acid hydrolysis. So H3O plus basically means, if I write down here, H3O plus means actually water with H plus, like this. So that is acidified water. So you can show it either as H3O plus, or you can show it as H2O with H plus. That means it's acidified water. So when you are doing the acid hydrolysis of X, so this is your process, is acid hydrolysis. you are getting two monosaccharides, glucose and glucose. Which disaccharide will give us glucose and glucose? Because two monosaccharides will come from disaccharide only, and everybody should know that this X has to be maltose, because maltose gives us 2 units of glucose. And when you look at this glucose and galactose, then which disaccharide will give me glucose and galactose? Okay, it's given by, if you look at the pronunciation of galactose, then you remember lactose, like that. So it is basically a disaccharide, lactose. Now these two monosaccharides are given when you do acid hydrolysis of Z. When you are doing acid hydrolysis of Z, which is a disaccharide, and you are getting glucose and fructose. And this fructose will basically come from sucrose molecule. So this disaccharide will be a sucrose molecule. So my dear friends, the order will be maltose on acid hydrolysis gives us 2 units of glucose, lactose on acid hydrolysis gives us glucose and galactose, sucrose on acid hydrolysis will give glucose and fructose. So first X is maltose, Y is lactose, and Z is sucrose. That means the first option is the correct answer. Dear friends, let's look at the question number 18. Which one of the following nitrogenous base is not present in RNA? So everybody knows, if I take DNA and RNA, okay, we have already done it. DNA, the nitrogenous base is here, nitrogenous bases, and here the nitrogenous bases. Here we have adenine, guanine, cytosine and thymine, and here we have adenine, guanine, cytosine and uracil. So in DNA we have a thymine, and in RNA we have a uracil. So that means in RNA thymine is not present, and in DNA uracil is not present. DNA does not have uracil. In the same way, RNA does not have thymine. Correct? So which of the following nitrogenous base is not present in RNA? RNA does not have thymine. That means thymine is the answer. Dear friends, let's go to the question number 19. Which type of bonds are broken during hydrolysis of ATP? ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. So look here, my dear friends, triphosphate basically means 3 phosphate groups are there, correct? So let us draw a very innovative structure. Let's take one nitrogenous base, adenine. Think this is adenine. It will be attached to a sugar called as ribose sugar, because we know that this ATP molecule is a nucleotide. Understand, this is a nucleotide. It will be attached to ribose, and ribose will be attached to 3 phosphate groups. So this is the attachment here. So my dear friends, we have actually drawn the structure of ATP molecule. Adenine is a nitrogenous base, it's attached to the ribose. Then ribose sugar is linked with 3 phosphate groups, because I told you it's a triphosphate. So let us come to our point. I have to tell that which type of bonds are broken during hydrolysis of ATP. You know, my dear friends, when ATP undergoes hydrolysis, if it undergoes hydrolysis, okay, ATP will give me ADP, and it will release 1 phosphate will be released from here. So I can call it as inorganic phosphate. This is inorganic phosphate, and you will get lots of energy, because everybody knows that this ATP is basically the energy currency. If your body wants energy, then you have to look for the ATP molecule. It's present in the mitochondrion of a cell. This is our energy currency. If your body needs energy, then ATP molecule will undergo hydrolysis. It will give me ADP, adenosine diphosphate. plus 1 inorganic phosphate. Pi stands for inorganic phosphate, and I will get energy. Then this ADP will also break. In first case it has released one phosphate. This is our phosphate here. We call it as inorganic phosphate. Okay. So let's talk about now ADP. ADP will also undergo hydrolysis. If it undergoes hydrolysis, you will get AMP. AMP stands for adenosine monophosphate. That means, first of all, in first case, one inorganic phosphate will come out. In second case, one more inorganic phosphate will come out. This one will also come out. And you will get lots of energy here. After that, this AMP does not break. Okay? So that means this part will not come out. Only these two, 1 and 2 phosphate groups will come out. So this is your PI. PI stands for inorganic phosphate. PI means inorganic phosphate. And that inorganic phosphate is your, this group. It is PO4 minus 3. Okay? PO4 minus 3. Have a look here now, my dear friends. What kind of bond exists here? If you look at this bond between phosphate and phosphate, I am taking out this phosphate. During hydrolysis of ATP, I am getting ADP plus inorganic phosphate. That means I have to take out this inorganic phosphate. And this bond, P double bond O, O, P double bond O, this kind of bond is known as phosphoanhydride bond. Because P double bond O, O and P double bond O, it looks like this. C double bond O, O, C double bond O. So this kind of bond is known as acid anhydride. This is known as acid anhydride. And this kind of bond, if you look here, my dear friends, this kind of bond is basically P double bond O, O and P double bond O. This will be called as phosphoanhydride bond. That means I have to break this phosphoanhydride bond. And now here again, I will have a phosphoanhydride bond. So two phosphoanhydride bonds I have to break. Okay? So my dear friends, so what kind of bonds are present in the ATP molecule which are broken during, hydrolysis process? We are breaking phosphoanhydride bonds. Look here. P double bond O, P double bond O. So I can also show you P double bond O, O, P double bond O. It looks like, this structure. And this is known as phosphoanhydride bond. Okay. So we have here two phosphoanhydride bonds, 1 and 2. So my dear friends, in case of ATP molecule, when we do hydrolysis of ATP molecule, you are breaking two phosphoanhydride bonds present between phosphate molecules. Correct? And after breaking them, ATP changes first into ADP and it will release one phosphate and energy. Then ADP will be hydrolyzed, it will give me AMP and it will also release one phosphate and energy. Correct? So hope you have understood. And if we talk of peptide bonds, they are present in protein. Present between amino acids in proteins. If we talk of banana bond, okay, it's present in borane, diborane, present in B2H6, that is diborane. And this glycosidic bond is present between sugars in oligosaccharides and polysaccharides. Question number 20. Which one among the following is not a carbohydrate? So obviously, my dear friends, if we look at, here we have 6 carbon atoms, here we have 5, 3 and 2. I told you last time that monosaccharides, they have carbon atoms from 3 to 7 in their structures. So possibility 6 are here, 5 are here, 3 are here. So the range is from 3 to 7. So monosaccharides, which are basically your carbohydrates, they have 3 to 7 carbon atoms in their structure. But this guy has only 2 carbon atoms in its structure. So that means this cannot be a carbohydrate. So this is not a carbohydrate. Who is this guy? You can call it as glucose, you can call it as fructose, you can call it as mannose, you can call it as galactose, correct? Which one is this? You can call it as ribose or ribulose, you can also say. And this one is your glyceraldehyde. You can also call it as dihydroxyacetone, because it's not, they have not opened up the structure actually here, they have written just molecular formula. So if it is glucose, it can be your, fructose also. It can be your mannose also. So my dear friends, this is the thing, this is the D option is the answer. It's not a carbohydrate here. Please make note of this. Thank you.